So this is going to be our first step into making a database in NetBeans. First of all, I'm going to show you my plan of what I'm going to make. So this is the database. It has 4 different tables. On the left here you can see the different table names. So I've got TBL customer. Now I've put TBL in just so that I can have a little bit of an identification that this is a table later on. It might be a case that I might have customer objects and customer tables, and I just want to differentiate that. So I'm just going to stick TBL underscore on the beginning of it. You don't have to do that. That's just one of the different naming conventions that you can have in a database. I've chosen to do it that way. You don't need to. So I've got a customer table, which has got a primary key, which is a customer ID, and I've got a customer name and an email address. All right. It's important that when you're doing your field names, that your field names do not have these spaces in them. So we're not going to have any spaces in our field names today. All right. Next one, we've got TBL order. So I've got one customer can place many orders. All right. So one customer can place many orders. I've got me, customer ID 1. I'm in here. I've placed an order. Alright, so I've now got an order ID, which is order ID 1. This customer ID is a foreign key in the order table. The primary key in the order table is order ID. Okay, so I've got a primary key and a foreign key. In my next table, I've got TBL order product link. Now, the idea of this table is that it's a link table, so this is going to enable us to have many products on many orders. It gives us the ability to have a many-to-many relationship. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, okay, so my order ID 1, with my order ID, that can be related to many products. All right, and I've got my product table down the bottom. Now, it's worth to note at this stage, just a quick recap: primary keys, foreign keys. Primary keys, they all need to be unique. You can't have duplicate ones. I can't have loads of ones that are all the same. I can't have that. That is not a good plan. With foreign keys, you can have duplicate foreign keys. So for example, I've got 2 here that are 1. That is absolutely okay. All right, so now I'm going to step over to NetBeans and we are going to start making this thing. Let's just crack this open on this window here. So now the first thing I'm going to do is a little bit of a tidy up. Now I'm going to make a new project. I'm going to call mine orders database. All right, so that's going to be the project name. I might actually not call it orders. Let's just go with orders, and that'll be absolutely fine. Let's just click OK on that. So I'm just going to call it orders. That way I can call my database orders database. Okay. So with my project, I'm going to do one little bit of housekeeping first. The reason I'm going to do this housekeeping bit is because when you make a database in NetBeans, it does something when you create the actual project. When you create the database, it's going to create quite a few different files. So I want to try and keep that contained. Now, this is my NetBeans project at the moment. There's not many in it. I've got some projects elsewhere. So I'm going to do orders. This is the project that I've just made. Okay. Now I'm going to make a folder in here. So I'm just going to make a new folder and I'm going to call it orders database files. This way that when I make my database and I can put it into this particular folder, it's going to be self-contained. So I know all the files that I need are going to be in this particular file. Like I say, when it does create them, I'll show you what it makes, because it's going to make quite a few different folders and files inside there. All right. Now at this stage we can pause this project. We're not going to do anything with this project. We are going to be doing that later. I'm going to click over to the Services tab. Now a little side note, if you don't have this Services tab and you've got rid of it because you might have accidentally clicked the close button there, if you go up to Window, it's actually in here under Services. You can just click Reset Windows and it will put all of them back, but just click on Services and that'll just pop straight up just over to the side here. Now we're going to go Java DB. Now at this stage there's a slight difference with some of us, because some of us, when we right click on Java DB, just up the top here, Java DB, when we right click on it, it might be minimized, so it might just be looking like that. So we're just going to open that up. When we right click on it, some of us don't have this create database option there. We don't have that option. The reason we don't have that option is probably because we've only just downloaded the JDK with that DB folder in it. If that's you, If you don't have this create database part, click on properties. On this top one, Java DB installation, can you see that mine is pointing to my C drive where I had my Java folder, so C drive program files, Java, JDK inside the DB folder. So you're going to need to point yours, just click browse for me, and then just go to your C drive and find that JDK file that we had earlier with the DB folder in it. If you think, Julie, I don't know what you're talking about, go and have a look at the first video, Databases Part 1, because I showed you how to download that folder. Alright, so we're going to assume at this stage that that is all fine. We're going to assume that you have the Create Databases option. So I'm going to go for it. So I'll just click Create Database. Database name, Orders Database. Username, now this is going to be my username for when I log in. So I'm just going to put Julie. I know, super creative. We need to be careful now. So we're in a dangerous territory right now. There are two things that we're going to do that are super dangerous that we need to avoid. The first thing is, when we type in our password, in a little while we're going to have to type that password into your code in plain text. If you want people to see your password that you use for everything, go ahead, type it in. You are going to need to write that in plain text so everybody's going to see it later on. I'm going to choose a password that I don't mind you guys seeing. Password. I know, super creative. Alright, now before you just go ahead and click OK, pause. Pause. There are two things we just need to say. First thing is, in this username field, if I'd have gone with admin, funnily enough, it doesn't like that because it's a reserved word. So you have to be really careful with what username you pick. It does like admin DB. That's fine. But my one was just Julie. I put lower scores for everything. I'm going to just check the case. So mine's a lowercase with my password, and that matches. Happy days. So I know the cases because that's important, uppercase, lowercase. Now the next super dangerous thing we need to make sure we've done. Click properties for me. Now this bottom one says database location. So I'm going to go to where I have stored my project. Alright, now wait a second. At the moment, if I did that very quickly. I went to NetBeans project and then I clicked on the orders project. Now at the moment, if I click OK, what's going to happen is it's going to put all of those database files down here. And I don't want that. I want them to actually go into my little folder that I've created just there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the little plus, click on orders, database files, and then click open. So my one again is just going to where I've got my NetBeans projects. I've got an orders project and then I'm putting it into my orders database files folder. Okay, now I'm going to click OK. Now the interesting thing is, do you remember earlier I said it's going to create some files? So I'm just going to show you what that's actually done. So in my project folder, orders database files, double click, these are the different files that I've now got. So I've got a few things. I've got the database, I've got a Derby file, and I've got the properties file just there. So they're nice and safe. They're tucked away in here, so we know that all those files are together. We're not going to get confused as to what on earth the Derby file is if it's floating around a little bit later on. All right. Next, we've got our orders database over here. I'm going to right click on it and click connect. If yours didn't come up, it might just be that you have to just click on the little plus part. You might have to click start server on here. Mine's popped up just underneath orders database. All right. Notice that when I clicked OK earlier, this also appeared. So I've now got this particular one here. So I've got my orders database just here. So I'm going to click plus on it. All right. And then I've got some things in here. So I've got my username, which is Julie. Just there. Underneath it's got tables. Now interestingly, we've got another one which is called app, which also has tables under it. Now let's talk about clean code for a second. At the moment this one's my username, so if we've got multiple people using this, It's just going to be me that can come in here and use these ones. That might not be what we want. It will work. You can totally put your tables into this one just here, and it will work for you. That's not an issue. It might be that you want to put them under the app file instead. I'm going to put them under the app file rather than the Julie file. So I'm just going to go into the other schemas, app tables. All right. Now at this stage, I'm going to click plus, and there's nothing under there. It kind of thought about it for a second, but there's nothing under there. So we're going to need to put our tables in. I'm going to get rid of these things on that side. All right. Now, there's two different ways of doing this. The first way is the easy way. The first way is create table. That's the way I'm going to show you. The second way is doing the execute command. If you want to do an execute command, what you would do is you would click on it. You would write your SQL create table statement in here, and then you would click run. So if you fancy doing it with straight SQL, instead of using the GUIs and the drop downs and whatnot, just type in your create table statement in here. W3 Schools has got some fabulous advice on create table statements and some tutorials, so just follow those, and you can just plonk them in there and then click the little run button, and those will create your tables for you. I'm not going to do that method. I'm going to do create table. Now at this stage, what we're going to do is I'm going to make sure that I definitely know what I'm going to make. So I'm lucky enough to have dual screens. I've got my plan. I'm going to chuck my plan over onto my other screen, and then I'm going to go back to my NetBeans project. Okay, so create table. So I'm going to right click on table, create table. Now my first one, I called it TBL underscore customer. So that's my first table. Now if you put a space in here at the end, you're going to have a bad time. If you put a space in here anywhere, you are going to have a bad time. Even in the field names, you put a space in and it will say that it can't create this table. So that's not what we want. Be super careful now of accidentally putting in a space, especially if you're copying and pasting things from somewhere. So if I'm copying and pasting things from my plan, you might find that it chucks in a space at the end. So just be super careful here. Add columns. So we're going to put the first one in. I'm going to do customer ID, no spaces. Now we're going to get a drop down of all the different fields that you can have. So we've got things in here that we're used to, things like Boolean fields. Now we've got time fields, decimal fields, long varchars. If we're doing a varchar, that's the name of a string in database speak. We've got things like timestamps. We're going to use timestamps later. We've also got things like chars. What we're looking for here is an integer. So I'm going to do mine as an integer. And we've got some options down the bottom here. Now this is going to be my primary key. So I'm going to say, yes, I would like it to be my primary key. That automatically means that it has to be a unique value. And here we're saying, if you tick it, it means that this field can contain null values. That's not what I want here. I don't want any null values. So I'm just going to leave that one as unchecked. So I've got primary key, unique. That one's good to go. And it will just put the little field into this little table just here. So add column. Let's do the next one. Customer name. Now this one's going to be a varchar, so we could do long varchar. It just means I can store more in it. I'm going to go down. Where are we? Varchar. Now with a string field, with a varchar field, you need to put a size. Now default, I tend to put 255. You could put something smaller here. I've seen people do crazy things like it's going to be a name with 5 digits in terms of this is how many characters you could put in. That's craziness. Be sensible. Make sure you put it as a sensible size. You could argue that mine's far too big. You could argue mine's far too big, but that's fine. Now mine's not going to be a primary key. This is not a primary key field. I'm not saying that all the customer names have to be unique, and I'm saying here that I want to allow null values. Is that okay? You could say to me that you want it to be that they have to type something in. If you want them to type something in, then we're going to uncheck it. If we're saying absolutely null values are okay, we're going to tick it. I'm going to be lazy. I'm just going to click OK on that. So I'm going to say, yeah, you can leave that blank if you want, and then click OK. So that's then put that one in there. Now my last one was an email address. Oh, if I could spell properly, that'd be lovely. Email address. My email address is going to be a varchar. So I'm just going to scroll down, find varchar, same. Again, same again, no difference. So it's not a primary key. I'm going to say you can leave it null if you want to, which is a bit strange, but that's okay. So email address, varchar, okay. Now at this stage, I'm just going to click OK. If I put a space in somewhere, when I click OK, I should get a nice red error message there. I've made sure that I didn't put any spaces in, so I'm going to click OK. What's happened is that's just plonked it over to the left, and then I can click on the little plus and I can see my fields. Notice that the primary key one at this stage is red. So now I'm just going to very quickly make my other ones. All right, so this one's going to be like a speed round challenge. TBL underscore, and we are going to go order. Add column. All right, so I've got order ID. That was going to be an integer. That's a primary key, and that's okay. Now my next field's a bit of a fun one because my next field is going to be a foreign key. So my next one's going to be customer ID. Now in this window, it doesn't actually let you say that this is a foreign key. I mean, some people put constraints in here. I found that putting a constraint in this box to say this is a foreign key is a little bit stressful. It doesn't tend to like the syntax too much, but you might be lucky. You might be able to do a bit of Googling, find the constraint, and then put that in there. Let me just kind of double check that I'm doing the right thing. So I need to just make sure that's an integer because this is the same data type as what I had in my TBL customer. Alright, so customer ID in my TBL customer was an integer. This is an integer. This is not a primary key. I don't want it to be unique because I'm saying that you can place multiple orders as a customer, so we're not saying it has to be unique, and we're going to say it's null. Now later on I'm going to show you how to actually tell the database that that is a foreign key. For now, we're pretending that it's just a number field, and that is okay. So for now, that's okay. Now my last one in here is going to be a date. Now this one's an interesting one as well. You've got different choices here. So I would say that your choices, your sensible choices are either timestamp, or if you scroll down, make it a varchar. If you make it a varchar, then that just means you're making it a string. In fact, that probably makes your life a little bit easier making it a string, because when you type it into things like forms and stuff, you can just grab it as a string and then plonk it in the database. But then again, if you're doing anything like making a calendar, then that's going to be quite tricky because then you have to do some conversion between a string and a date. You can chuck it in as a timestamp. There is different methods that you can use that interface directly with the NetBeans database backend as a timestamp field. So you can have dates in the front end that map to a timestamp field. So I'm going to put mine as timestamp, and we're going to play around with it in a little bit. And this one's not a primary key. It's not unique. I'm going to say you can leave it as blank if you want to. Okay. Alright, so the next table that we are going to make is the link table. So when I click create table, we can just put the name of it in. Just again, reminder, the name is TBL underscore. We're doing order product link. Alright, let's just double check I've spelled that right. Lovely. Now with this one, we need to do this a little bit carefully because this table, if I just bring over my plan, this table has got two fields in it. Both of those fields are foreign keys. Now, if we want to treat this as a composite primary key later, we need to make a decision now in terms of allowing null values. If we allow these fields to have null values, for example, like that, then if we have this as a composite primary key, that's going to create duplicate primary keys. So what we're going to do together is we're going to say that we're not allowing null values in this particular table so that we can use this as a composite key in a little while. Okay, so we're going to just put the two fields in. We're going to go order ID. That one's going to be an integer. And here's the little box that we need to be concerned with now. We just need to uncheck this. So we're saying we're not allowing null values in this particular field. And then we've got the second one. And we're going to go product. And with both of these, we're not checking the primary key box. We're treating them like they're just regular numbers at this stage. Uncheck that null box. Okay, we're just treating them like number fields, and we're going to add some constraints a little bit later in terms of foreign keys and primary keys. Lovely, that's 3 done. And then my last one that I'm going to make is product TBL product. Product ID. Product ID was going to be an integer, and that's going to be my primary key. Product name is going to be a varchar. Again, I'm going to make mine quite long, 255. You don't have to do that. You can choose something more sensible. Alright, now cost has got another question mark here, so we could do cost as something like an integer. You could say, hang on a second, that's not going to be too valid because I can't do £1.50. You can do it as a string. I'm going to do it as a double. Let's do it properly. Let's do it as a double. Alright, so now we've done it as a double. We don't need to add anything else into here, and we're going to click OK. Fabulous. So that is all of our tables set up. At this stage in the game, we don't have any foreign keys defined. So I'm going to show you how to do that next. So what we now need to do is we need to run some code against our tables to insert our foreign keys. So what we're going to do is we are going to right click where we need to put a foreign key. Now just to remind ourselves where those foreign keys are, our little database plan. So we haven't got any foreign keys in the TBL customer, but we have got one in TBL order, so we're going to try and link that one to that one. Alright, by that one I mean the customer ID in the TBL order table to the TBL customer ID field. So we're going to try and link those two together. Just to make this slightly easier on me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open that particular table just so I can see the field so I don't misspell it or anything like that. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to right click on the table where the foreign key is, so TBL order, right click. I'm going to do execute command. So this is going to be our first step into typing in some SQL. So what we need to do here is an alter table statement. We're going to change the table so that it includes a foreign key. So I'm going to go with alter table. Now this isn't particularly case sensitive, so you can do this in all uppercase or lowercase. It doesn't particularly matter at this stage. You might see some examples online of all uppercase. I'm just being a little bit lazy. Now you might need app dot. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the table name in of the current table that we're using, but you need to put app dot sometimes. Sometimes it's absolutely fine without it. Sometimes it's going to cause you an issue if you don't have it. So I'm just going to put app dot, which means this current application, TBL dot. We are in the order table. Alright, so TBL order. Well, let me just get my cursor out of the way. So app.tbl order, and we're going to do add, if I've spelt that right, add foreign key is what we are up to. The next little bit is to put the field name of the current foreign key in this particular table. So I've got customer ID. And again, don't panic about too much like uppercase, lowercase. You can do it as that if you want to do it as that. That's absolutely fine. So I've got add foreign key, customer ID. So that's the field which is currently my foreign key that I'm trying to make just here. All right. The next part is we're saying, what does it link to? References to. First of all, which table? App dot, just in case that gives us a problem. TBL underscore. We're linking it to the customer table. And then we're going to do some brackets. And we're saying which field in the customer table does it link to? Well, actually, we've been nice and sensible. We've called it the exact same thing. All right, so we've called it a customer ID, and then I'm going to do a little semicolon at the end and click run. Now, this is a lovely window. This is the window that you want to see because it says no errors have occurred. We like that. If you've done something like spelt something wrong, or if you've put in something that doesn't exist, for example, you've put in orders instead of order, that's going to cause you a problem. You might, if you do that, you might run it and it will give you something horrible like this, because this is saying, hang on a second, this doesn't exist. So try and read the error message. Sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they're not. That will have created, or should I say the first one that we did without the misspelling in it, that will have created us our foreign key. Now, if you haven't seen your foreign key yet, it's just in this little foreign key bit. If we click plus on it, we've got a lovely little foreign key, and we're saying, hey, this field, customer ID, links to TBL underscore customer dot customer ID. So that is our first foreign key done. We just need to do that to the other ones to create our other foreign keys. Now, just before we do that, I'm just going to copy and paste this out just because I'm gonna need it in a second. Let's say you did this and you did it wrong. Let's say that you accidentally put in customer name rather than the ID, and you go, oh, I've now got a foreign key that is completely wrong and I don't know how to deal with it. You can try right clicking on it, but you're not going to get a delete thing here. This is going to get a bit interesting. What you need to do is you need to do another alter table statement. So we've already got this one. I'm going to change this one. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this bit onwards. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a drop constraint. All right, so a drop constraint is saying delete something. That's what a drop command is in a database. So we're saying drop constraint. Now this bit's a bit of a pain. This bit's a bit of a pain because you need to type in the actual code from down here, and that is a little bit of a pain. So drop constraint, I've got, whew. All right, when we run that, what it will do is it will say, yay, there's no errors. And if I go back into my database and I look at TBL order, that foreign key will have got rid. So that will have gone now. So if you do it wrong, you need to do a drop constraint on that particular foreign key. Now I'm just going to paste mine back in and run it again because I want my foreign key in there. So that's going to chuck my foreign key back inside this particular table. It's going to say there's no errors, fabulous. Now I need to do my other one, so I'm just going to come over here and I need to do some of my other ones. So I'm just going to put this in here. I've pre-made one already. So for my other one, I've got alter table and I've got app.tbl underscore order product link because that's the one that I'm going to do next. I'm saying add foreign key order ID, and that is going to reference to the TBL order ID. I'm going to just run that and it's going to say thank you so much, foreign keys in there, lovely. And I can just do one more on there. So I've got product ID. I didn't pre-make this one, so I'm going to have to put this one in. Product ID, and that one was TBL product. Lovely. So I've got my foreign keys in here. Sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't. If they don't turn up, all you need to do is just right click on the table and do refresh. For example, my foreign key in the TBL order is not there at the moment. I do a quick refresh and it will just pop in there and go, yes, there is one in here. And I've just done a quick refresh on this one as well. So you can see that I've got two different constraints in there now. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to change this into a composite primary key. And by this, I mean we're going to actually enforce the fact that in the TBL order product linked, the order ID and product ID are acting as a composite primary key. So what we need to do is just right click on the TBL order product link table, click execute command. All right, that's where I am at the moment. So I'm just going to execute command. That's where we have. You get loads of these open up the top, just close them as you're going through. That's fine. All right, we're going to put an alter table statement in. So it's alter table. We love these. Alter table statements at dot. Now at this stage, now earlier I did say that sometimes you require this and sometimes you don't. Just a point to note here, if you're doing this under your username, remember my username was Julie, if you've put your username in and you're doing it in that part instead, then you're going to need to put your username dot instead. I'm using the app part because I'm in the app part. I'm in the app part of the database. So that's why I've got app dot just there. So I'm going to do app dot. We're going to do the table that we're in, so it's TBL, TBL underscore. And again, don't worry too much about uppercase, lowercase in this one, that doesn't matter too much. We're going to do add primary key. All right, now usually what you would do in these circle brackets here is that you would put one of the primary keys in. So you put one of the fields in and say that's your primary key. If you're doing two, you just put both in with a comma. So we're going to do order ID, comma, ID. All right, so let's just double check. Order ID, comma, product ID. That is our composite primary key. If we give that a run, lovely, we've got there is no errors. We're just going to give that a bit of a refresh All right, and then we should have a little index come in. We've got loads of indexes in here. That's our foreign keys and our primary key in there. You'll find that that is our primary key down the bottom. So that will set you up with a composite primary key in your order to product link table. All right. Now our last little job before we run off and say we are finished with making the database and we can move on to the next video. The thing that we want to do, just to double check ourselves, is to put some data into these databases, because if we don't, when we run them, we're not going to know whether they actually work or not. And at the moment they're empty. If I right click on a table and click view data, there's nothing in here. We could wait until we've got our SQL in the Java front end, or should we say more front end part, that actually fires some SQL statements and does some insert into statements. But let's just get some let's get some records in here first, so that we actually know that this thing is working. Now, just as a side note, notice that I've right clicked and I clicked view data on the table. If you do it just on the field, you can only see one field used. So I click view data and it will show me just that one field. If you want to see the entire table, make sure you click on the TBL customer part there. Now, notice up the top that I've got an SQL statement. So we love SQL. We've got to select all of the records from app.tbl customer, so from this table, and then it says fetch the first 100 rows only. Well, I mean, we could get rid of that and run that again if we wanted to. Oh, hello. If we wanted to. If you want to run an SQL command, just paste it in here and then click the little run button just there. That'll run it and give you the results. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some records in. So I'm just going to right click, insert record, and I'm going to copy the ones that I had on my spreadsheet. So just a quick reminder, these are the ones that I'm going to be pasting in from my spreadsheet, just so I know that they work. Because then when I run some queries later, I'm going to know whether these ones work or not. So I'm just going to quickly type these ones in. Press enter at the end, and then I'm just going to click add row, and then I can do the next one. This little hashtag over here, by the way, don't think of that as your primary key. This one's your primary key. If you didn't have a primary key field, this is the line number. So don't be thinking, oh, I can just grab that. You do need a primary key in here if you want to do this nice and neatly. Right, Charlie's my next one. One more. We've got Paul. protonmail.com. Lovely. Once I've done, just click OK. And you'll notice that they just pop into the back end. Now, I've got 3 more to do, so feel free to watch me do the other ones. Otherwise, you can just end this video here and then go and look at the next one, because I think you're ready for the next one. That'll do. That'll do. If it doesn't pop up sometimes, just right click view data again, that'll pop right in there. Insert into. So this is my link table at the moment. Now this is going to cause me issues if I try and do this in the wrong order, because if I try and add a product that doesn't exist, now let me do it. So let me put a 1 in, and I put a 1 here and I go OK. It's going to go, hey, this violates a foreign key constraint. If you're getting that, it means that you've got a record here which doesn't exist. So it violates the foreign key constraint, because it's saying you can't put a 1 in here because that doesn't exist right now. So let me just pop back over to TBL product. Let's do that one first. Oh, broccoli. There we go, if I've spelt that right. Right. 2. There we go. I think we are. Oh, please enter values. Oh, there we go. I've missed one. I missed one. Rookie mistake. Missed something in my primary key field. We can't have that. And the last little one that I've got to do is just my foreign key field. So I'm just going to do insert row. And then I'm going to do 1 and 1. And again, I'm just copying from my spreadsheet. So this is nice and straightforward for me because I've got a plan already as to what I wanted to put in. If you didn't, this might get a little bit confusing to track which records are relating to which ones. So that's it. That's me good to go. And I can right click on any of these and click view data and see my different records now. Okay, so that is us. That's our database ready and set up, and we are now ready to start interacting with it at our front end with some Java.